Hello and welcome back to episode 199 of Our Young Creators, the podcast. I'm Yong Pratt, your host and chief dreamer at Our Young Creators. And in today's episode, I'm going to reveal the top 10 most downloaded episodes of 2018. Are you ready? The number 10 most downloaded episode is number 107. Let's bond, not bicker over time spent on devices. This episode was kind of a call to arms and really our mission here about using our devices as tools for bonding with our kids and not bickering. We started talking about this idea very early on at the beginning of this new year as we dove into Our Young Creators and being an online business. And before I go any further, I do want to say that all of these episodes, you'll be able to find the links to all of them. So you can listen to the episodes, you can watch the videos, and you can go to our website at ouryoungcreators.com/199. And all of these episodes will be listed right there. Okay, the 9th most downloaded episode is 174. Where do you hang out all day? And this was an episode all about talking about your zone of genius. If you don't know what I'm referring to, definitely head over to episode number 174 and find out what that means for you and how it can change things for you moving forward. Number 8 is episode 108, Life and Academic Skills Through Podcasting. We broke down the skills that your kids could learn through the art of podcasting. If you're curious, definitely head over to the episode. It's one of my favorites as far as really opening the doors for parents and kids to understand that our devices and access to the devices that we have can really be a benefit for kids to be able to share their message and learn all sorts of important skills through podcasting. Number 7, episode 105, Why Now is the Perfect Time to Start a Podcast. This was in a series we created right at the beginning of our journey here. It took me a while to figure out that this is really what we wanted to teach, but that's another story that I shared on the episode right before this, 198. So definitely go back and take a listen to that to hear about all of the discoveries we've made in 2018. So why now is a perfect time to start a podcast? And I truly believe that. There's no better time than the present to do something that you wanted to do, to challenge yourself, to brand yourself, to help your kids learn that their voice is important. There's lots of reasons why a podcast can be beneficial for you and why now is the best time to start. Number 6, episode 103, How to Choose a Topic for your podcast. Now, this is a question we get all the time because people always say, well, I don't even know what I would talk about on a podcast. On episode 103, I talk about the ways in which you can discover what you want to talk about and what your podcast can be about. And literally, I'm here to tell you that it can be about anything. When I was doing some research about the different types of podcasts, there's literally everything. There was a podcast that I found that was recorded at the laundromat. There are podcasts for hunters and explorers and parents and moms and dads and learning marketing. There's literally everything under the sun. So go have a listen to episode number 103 if you need some help figuring out what you want to talk about on your podcast. Episode number 5, Why Podcasting and a Challenge for you. On this episode, I presented a little challenge that gave you something special if you took me up on that challenge. So definitely, if you're curious about what the challenge was and how you can get a gift from me, have a listen to episode number 105, where I talk about why you would even want to start your own podcast. 4. Episode 101. This was the Welcome to Our Young Creators podcast. It was the very first one we did this year. We relaunched and rebranded the podcast, and we had our launch party on Valentine's Day, February 14th, and this was the 4th most downloaded episode of the year. Number 3 is episode 104. The 4-letter word that stops most would-be podcasters in their tracks. I bet you already know what this 4-letter word is, but if you want to find out the answer, head over to episode 104 and find out if your hunch was correct. Number 2 is episode 116. This was one of our first guests of the new year and the new podcast, and this is an interview we did with Simon Marcus. Now, Simon is the CEO of my favorite new podcasting platform called Pippa. If you have questions about Pippa or want to get started or want to know why I switched from another really big podcast host to Pippa, I'm happy to answer those questions for you. You can go take a listen to episode 116, and then if you have any further questions, definitely reach out to me either on Facebook or Instagram at Our Young Creators. Okay, so it's time to reveal our number 1 most downloaded episode of the podcast. Are you ready? We might need a little drum roll here. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast over the past couple weeks, you probably already know what our number 1 most downloaded episode is because I spoke all about it on episode 194, talking about kids and creativity. So the number 1 most downloaded episode literally has 4 times as many downloads as number 2, and so on. And it's interesting to me because it's episode number 11 of the podcasts. Are schools killing your kids' creativity? Now, we ran this same episode on both versions of the Raising Smart Kids podcast, Raising Smart Kids and then Raising Smart Kids 2.0, and then we released it again right here on Our Young Creators because y'all know how much I love to repurpose and reuse great content, right? So it's really interesting to me that I first released this idea, this episode, way back in 2013. And here we are in 2018, and it is still the most downloaded episode of our entire podcast history. You definitely want to take a listen, episode number 11. Now, again, I am going to put all of these episodes and the links that I mentioned in this episode over on our website, ouryoungcreators.com/199. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to release episode number 200 of the podcast and talk about what is coming up in 2019 for us here at Our Young Creators and for the podcast. I look forward to catching you right back here tomorrow. Have an amazing day. Cheers, my friends.